Can I hire people? Can I build a team? Can I use this space concept? Can I build a firm that the client is better off than if I was still doing it?
It's not easy, but I'm sure there's some things on your plate that you know that if you walked away tomorrow, your team would crumble.
All that information is in one place that can be shared by multiple people, but if it's in your head, it might as well be dead to the rest of the team because they can't access it.
Welcome to the Total Succession Show. I'm your host, Tyson Ray, joined by Kim Cochenour. We're glad you're here. Subscribe at totalsuccession.com/podcast and let each episode guide you closer to a confident, well-planned exit. Today's conversation just might be the nudge you need to start preparing for what's next.
Welcome back to the Total Succession Show. Today we are talking about the founder's brain, when everything, the process, the client stories, the planning logic, where all the important documents are, all lives in your head and nowhere else. That is a huge problem. And you can't sell what you haven't shared. So Tyson, real quick, can you add a little brief commentary to that?
Well, there's a lot in there. It started back with paper. That I had a legal pad and I had a way of asking questions and where the birthdays went and where social security numbers went and where the wedding anniversary went and how the kids were laid out and a couple different pages of just as it was this repetitive. And those legal pads got saved, right? But there was no way to share that with my registered assistant at the time. That's what they were called back in the day. That information. So when they took on that phone call, they themselves found out new information. And there's a lot trapped in the founder's brain, but I think to the extent that you're not leveraging technology and help educate the team around the importance of the data to be shared, you're missing out. The client we better serve to the extent that that knowledge can be utilized in a way. And I just love the medical profession. It's just like the flip chart, right? They come in and now it's a flip laptop that they can open up and the doctor sees what the nurse just did and what the labs were and what the reception desk maybe said and what the last meeting was. And all that information is in one place that can be shared by multiple people. But if it's in your head, it might as well be dead to the rest of the team because they can't access it.
Yep. So today we're going to help you unlock the value before you lose it. Most advisors have built a decision-making business muscle that's really strong and it's taken over for decades. But if that instinct isn't documented and taught or modeled, it can't be transferred. So if you're looking to set up your successor for success, you need to get into a position where you can set yourself up well to help kind of work through that so that they can have the confidence and your clients can have the confidence in your successor. So Tyson, help us kind of name some things that usually get stuck in the founder heads. What are kind of some of those common knowledge gaps and what type of things that don't even show up in the CRM, but actually drive the relationship business?
Yeah, part of it is I would call it the wealth story. Like, how did this money come about? What was inherited? What did they earn themselves? What was the tragedy? What was the success? What was the mistake?
Mm.
Because they all come with different lessons and different experiences, but those accounts and those dollars have a story behind them. And a lot of times that story that understanding that story allows you to speak into the client as they learn to let go and utilize that which they have, not how they got it or why they got it.
Yep.
And again, that's just part of what needs to get downloaded into that next generation when you're looking to allow that client to know that this other person also knows.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, right. So it's really kind of, and I like that, it's the wealth story, kind of the legacy promises, the long-term context that you've retained because you've known the client over the years. So the big question is, what do you actually need to get out of your head? So Tyson, let's walk through a few examples because we've done this here together. So it's going to be fun to kind of share this with everyone listening. So what systems or processes should be documented?
if you don't have a service system, meaning that you have proactively predetermined how often you're reaching out to the client and communicated to that client, you're at risk. I'll use the dentist as an example. I know somewhere in the calendar, because every 6 months you have your teeth cleaned, that my next teeth cleaning is booked. And part of having my teeth cleaning booked has me completely tune out that I need a different dentist because I know my next dentist appointment is set, so I don't need to worry about another dentist coming in. But if you play that to financial advice, and the client doesn't know the next time you're reaching out to them or the next time they're having their review or their annual review, uh, when the another advisor is introduced or referred to them or they meet in public, all of a sudden it's like, well, wait, I don't know. It's just a defense
Mhm.
mechanism. So creating a service system and realizing you already have a service system. There is already a pattern there, but do you realize it? And does the client realize it? And is it duplicatable and consistent that
Mhm.
can you then create a system that creates the ability to track that a long time ago, actually, it was the first book I wrote in 2012. I actually published the thought process. It was just like, hey, it is a math problem. You have an annual review, and then how many contacts are you going to have? There's a system in place that we can then go track. Hey, in November of this year, how many appointments am I going to be scheduled to have? Because we're going to be reaching out and proactively setting them, and how many review calls. And what we were seeking to do is avoid what happens sometimes in the business is a certain month you just get overwhelmed or it's
Mm.
bottlenecked. And if you've made the mistake of just setting up the annual review based on when the client came in versus where do you need that annual review to be moved to so you can kind of have some control over your time, especially time into the future, a service system is a must.
Mhm. Yeah. So that's a great one. Thank you, because that's right. Either you are already doing something, do it with some consistency and some intentionality so the clients know that they can count on you and when that's actually going to happen. So let's talk a little bit about the investment rationale. Why do your portfolios look the way that you do? Do you have that processed out? Why does that matter, Tyson?
Well, partially, you also in previous books, I've talked about. I believe advisors should have what's called a predetermined investment strategy, meaning if this then that. If they're most clients with some part of their assets are long-term growth, multi-generational wealth. Okay, what's your investment strategy for that? Because if you don't have one, first and foremost, your investment strategy is a hodgepodge of different positions. It's the most recent wholesaler that took you to lunch, left you the brochure, pitched something to you, and then that's in your head, and you feel obligated because they gave you lunch to then impregnate your practice with this position at the next victim that happens to sit in front of you. And a
Mm.
predetermined investment strategy helps you can control your inventory. I'm going to date myself a little bit here. A wonderful mentor in my life was named Bob Dunwoody, and Bob Dunwoody said, "Okay, here's a strategy that this is something to try and think about if you're listening to this." And what he'd say was, "Okay, quantify the assets under management of your practice." So think about that for a second. It's 100 million, 200 million, 500 million, a billion, whatever the dollar amount is. Okay, now envision it sitting in cash. So it's all in cash. Where should it be?
Mm.
Based on everything you know and based on what you like and what you don't like about portfolio management and how you do what you do as far as managing portfolios. Where should it be? And then ask yourself, why isn't it there? And work towards answering that, and that's how you're gonna clean up and run the portfolio management, creating predetermined portfolios, because if you have a predetermined portfolio strategy, now you don't need advisors that have to figure out how to run the portfolio because you've procedured that out. You've gotten it out of your head, so they don't have to come and ask you, "What should they do with this ACAT or this new money?" If it's a predetermined investment strategy, if it's if this, then that. If it's cash, it's this. If it's short term, it's that. If it's long term, it's this. You
Mhm.
can build consistency so that when the families and the friends are sitting around the kitchen table at Thanksgiving or Christmas, they're all having the same experience in the portfolio. When you're walking in the grocery store and you bump into a client, you have a pretty good idea what their portfolio is doing, because without a predetermined investment strategy, you have no idea. In fact, you're kind of embarrassed and a little stressed out because you're like, I hope they don't ask me about their portfolio because I have no idea what they're in.
Mm. Yeah, you don't wanna be in that seat as an advisor. Someone's entrusted to you their life savings. You need to be able to do that. And if you're going to grow your firm and grow your team and multiply that, you have to have that consistency in place. It's a good point, Tyson. So I think part of this is it kind of goes beyond the standard operating procedures. Think of this as exposing your thinking so others can carry it forward. We have Brian Sweet on the podcast next week, and he shares how he began having his G2s lead meetings with him present but silent. So over time, clients can begin to see them as part of the plan, not just as a support staff. And you'll want to hear that full conversation because Brian does get into details about how he built his confidence in the G2s and helped earn the client's trust along the way. And that's a playbook we believe is worth following. So if you're not subscribed yet, please do that. So, Tyson, I think it's important that we bring it back into the S.P.A.C.E framework. Share with us your thoughts on the founder's brain and how that shows up in this succession journey.
Well, again, space being them seeing themselves as their best self, what gives them energy, what does freedom look like? What needs to be prepared to do that? What needs to be I realized that in order for someone else to do it, I needed to figure out what is the science and what is the art. If it's
Mm,
all art and it's all in your head, meaning you're crafting it out of nowhere, you're never getting yourself out of all the hats that you wear.
yeah.
But what you have done over time is the art became consistent. And if it became consistent, you can often start making it a science that therefore can be repeatable. If this, then that. This is what we do. And that's part of the preparing aspect of it. Acting on it is doing what Brian Sweet's going to talk about in this next podcast. It's actually letting other people do it while you can observe. You have to let other people act in some regards. It maybe you stop acting.
Mm,
And definitely the in space, the C being committing, it's to commit to you in order to have this freedom that you saw, you have to let these things play out. You have to commit to letting these advisors stumble through and figure out. I know how hard it was for Brian because I still do it. When I'm bringing in advisors and that second annual review is theirs to run and I'm sitting there being quiet, I would rather have my mouth wired shut because it would just help,
mhm,
right? You just wanna jump in, you wanna feel like your ego like, "I'm the lead advisor, this is my firm, these were my
mhm.
relationships," and it's just like, no, if you don't commit to letting these people step in and help, you're gonna always have to be that person sitting in the seat,
Yeah.
and that's a risk to your practice and your firm and your freedom and your quality of life. Um and in the E and exit, it's realizing that if done right, you can exit some of these roles that you don't interest you anymore. What drives you changes over time, and what you used to love, especially if the complexity starts coming into it, things that you love, you can actually start hating. It just pours energy out of you instead of revitalizing and rejuvenating you, and through this concept of space and downloading and teaching and documenting and getting the art to be more of the science, you can free yourself from a lot of things that you can hire other people or there are other people on your team that can do better than you are. And what you have to really realize, what I had to check my ego a long time ago with this is, uh, at one time it was like, because it's all in my head, I'm important.
Mm,
It's all about me. And what I realize is that when I wanted to make it all about the client, can I hire people? Can I build a team? Can I use this space concept? Can I build a firm that the client is better off than if I was still doing it?
mm.
Because ultimately that's the goal, because that's what's best for the client. And it actually may be best for you listening to this, actually doing some of this.
Yeah. Well, and that takes time to get your head around that. It wasn't something that you came to overnight, and so you kind of realized if you are the system that makes your business run, you don't actually have a business. You've got it all tightened up in a bottleneck. And so if you're the bottleneck of your company, it could cost you millions in the opportunity to exit on your terms and the potential legacy of your business. Your challenge for next week is to identify the one thing you know you do well, but there is no one else on your team who could do any of it tomorrow. You need to write that down. You need to explain it or you need to teach it. And if you tackle something like that every week for 90 days or you take one a month, that really helps you build that foundation so the business can run without you. That's the first step in a right direction for a future exit or succession that works for you, that works for your client, and the legacy of your company. And it's not easy, but I'm sure there's some things on your plate that you know that if you walked away tomorrow, your team would crumble. Not everything, but there would be some of those big things. So focus on that first. So, Tyson, what do you want to leave the listeners with? Let's give them some hope.
So here's why it hasn't happened, and here's what needs to change for you to do what we're talking about. You're not doing this yourself because it's in your head. You already know it. And what Kim had done for me years ago was scheduling time and having other associates sit in my presence and just watch what I'm doing and ask a very powerful question. Why? Why'd you do it that way? What are you thinking? Why is that? And over time, what has been, and their job is to come in, ask the questions, write down the answers, and start seeing where the science is, where if this, then that. Well, because I saw this and this, I did this and this. Well, that's how you start downloading it. And I think that is the best way to find progress because it's blocked off on your calendar. You've created space on your calendar for it. You've assigned someone else on the team to come help get it out of you because it's really hard to get it out of you when it's in your head and you know it. Because if you know it, you know it. What is there to talk about it? And because it's in your head, you can process it at the speed of light and you can move on, but then it's never information that someone else can take advantage of. And by having, empowering the team to ask why questions can help flush things out where you actually make these things better. You learn because you're telling them why. You remind yourself why so it can become consistent and repeatable. And if you don't know where to start, it's literally have an hour once a day that someone's sitting next to you and they just shadow what you're doing and ask why questions, and they'll help identify where these nuggets of science, of repeatable processes, of how you do certain things, certain ways can be flushed out and then shared with the rest of the team.
So if you're listening to this and you're confused, or that sounds awful to you, you need to plan it or get someone in your corner who will help you do this. Plan it at the time of day that you have the most energy because this is going to be hard for you. It will drain your energy. Don't you dare put this on your calendar after market closes. You're not going to want to do it then. You're not. So plan time that you are going to show up as your best self because your team and your clients and your firm and your future self will thank you for it. And so prioritize that time that works well for you. So thank you, everyone. See you next time. And we'll be back soon with more conversations like this.
These conversations are designed to support your next move, however close or far it may be. Tap subscribe and let each episode guide you closer to a confident, well-planned exit. I've wrestled with these things myself, and that's exactly why I created something to help you do it with less stress and more direction. My book, Total Succession, is now available on Amazon. Inside, I break the process down into 5 clear steps to help you exit on your terms with confidence, full compensation, and your client's best interests at heart. You can also visit totalsuccession.com/podcast to download a free starter guide that walks you through my SPACE framework: see, prepare, act, commit, exit. Remember, you only exit your business once. Create the space to do it well. Thanks for listening. Until next time.